Hello everyone, this is Sharul from the Web3 Passport, and today I have Andrew Tzialli with me, and we are here in the Ethereum Dublin conference, and it's a day 2 of the conference. And for our listeners, this is our first Web3 hackathon event that's organized by ETH Dublin. So Andrew, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
And Andrew, I would like you to introduce yourself.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So my name's Andrew Tzialli. I am a partner in Philip Lee, a law firm in Dublin. I work in their Dublin office and their London office. I'm primarily a venture capital and private equity lawyer, but I'm also head of the firm's crypto asset and blockchain group. I've been doing work in and around blockchain in one way, shape or form for companies involved in that sector since 2013, 2014. So we have seen it all in that time. As far as us as a firm, we're a full service firm. We do just about everything. The traditional areas, employment, litigation, construction, procurement, M&A, venture capital, and then niche areas, media, energy, things like that. But we're a full service firm, and our offices are Dublin, London, and San Francisco.
Wow, Andrew, that's a lot of information and how powerful Philip Lee as an organization is. And also, I will come up as very curious in this conversation.
Sure,
with you
be
today.
Curious, yeah.
Andrew, so you're a partner with Philip Lee. You're also a lawyer. You're also a head of blockchain and digital assets. So how does this role work?
Yeah, it's I wear a lot of different hats, I guess, and thankfully I've been involved in blockchain for such a long time. It comes quite naturally, but I think there's lots of lawyers that are fearful or a bit cautious working in the sector because of it being considered high risk, or it being considered or they're just unfamiliar with it as a sector. But I think I've been working in it for such a long time. We're not really working with companies anymore at all that would want to just make a quick buck. There's no one just trying to do a quick pump and dump and issue coins. And they are institutional clients. They are clients that welcome regulation. They are clients who are doing lots of interesting things for the financial services industry, the traditional financial services industry, offering underlying solutions with underlying blockchain-based technology. It's interesting, very, very varied as well.
Interesting. So as a partner and as a lawyer and as a head of blockchain and digital assets, so these three roles or hats have so many different responsibilities. So how do you usually manage it on day to day? So how do they blend together, come together?
Yeah, I mean, look, it can be very, very busy, but in terms of what I do, the work I do in venture capital anyway is invariably involved in technology and disruptive technology. It hasn't just been blockchain over the years. We've done a lot in AI, we've done a lot in gaming, esports in particular. Over the years. So I've often had an involvement in new and interesting and disruptive technologies. So doing work in blockchain just seems like an addition to that. So it's fairly manageable.
Right, interesting. And I would also like to, as you have spoken about different niches and different clients and projects that Philip Lee and yourself in your role would work with. So how does your team and Philip Lee as an organization identify these projects to work with? What's the evaluation criteria? Can we talk about that?
Sure, yeah. Well, I think a lot of in terms of evaluating projects that come to us, a lot of them, they find us rather than us finding them.
Yes, that's correct.
To be honest, I think I'm not sure there's huge numbers of lawyers in Ireland in particular that would do significant work in blockchain. There's definitely a lot more now than there was 2018 when I first joined the firm, but there aren't huge numbers of them. So I think it's often it's existing companies, existing clients in the sector referring other companies to us. Right. That tends to be where we meet most of our clients in blockchain.
Interesting. And you are in a very significant and very important role within the organization. So what are your key challenges on the day-to-day?
Well, I think in terms of the work that we're doing around blockchain, one of the key challenges until recently has been a lack of regulation. So, as lawyers, we advise on the law. But if there are huge gaps in the law, in blockchain in particular, and in digital assets, then you end up trying to interpret how a legal problem might fall within an existing regulatory or legal framework, which often doesn't really work. It's not a perfect solution. Now, with the incorporation of MiCA, markets and crypto asset regulations, into law across Europe, at least now we have a substantive body of law that we can go back to and refer to. And it's not perfect. There are things that it does not cover. It doesn't cover NFTs. It doesn't cover DeFi. It doesn't cover security tokens, which are dealt with by traditional legislation that regulates the financial industry in the form of MiFID and MiFID II. But it's still a very, very big step forward compared to what we've been used to for the last number of years.
Interesting. So lawyers and the firms are happy to hear about MiCA, and
I think we are. Not just lawyers. The companies that we work with, they welcome legislation. They want to be by the book. They want to show that they are not in this sector to try and circumvent any regulatory process, to try and make a quick buck. These are companies who are saying, I want to be treated in the same way as a traditional, financial entity would be treated, or I recognize that legislation and regulation is important and I want to comply with that and adhere to it and show my investors or my customers or my clients that I am by the book.
Absolutely. And that trust, that transparency, that security and safety that comes with it. Absolutely. And I think we all were waiting for it. We were needing it very strongly. That's something could happen. So so where is it all going now? What the future for you looks like overall?
So look, I think as in any bearish market or crypto winter, of which there have been a number, usually the companies that we work with in a slight down market are building. They're doing there's much or a lot fewer of our companies that we work with are issuing tokens at the moment. It's still happening, but not as prevalent as it was. Lots are just building or issuing, doing traditional equity fundraising rounds at the moment instead of issuing tokens, with a view of then doing token offerings in the years to come when the market picks up a little bit. But I don't just think this isn't just a blockchain issue. I think tech generally is in a bit of a bearish market. 2020, 2021, was crazy in terms of investor appetite for technology. Some of the busiest years that I've certainly seen in my career, and that may have been because we had a shutdown for the COVID years, for the COVID months, and then when things opened back up, there was this real appetite for all things tech. Particularly things cloud-based and SaaS-based. So that has cooled a little. So it's not really just a blockchain's problem; it's a tech cooling problem. But like most industries, I think it's a cycle, and it will inevitably pick back up. Touch wood.
So Andrew, you have spoken about the 2020 and 2021 market, that was the best time when it comes to investment space that you have seen, and then we had a bear market, and then it's going to flourish in the near future. We will again see the market pick up. So what is the whole the investment side that coin looks like right now? What's the trend says?
So look, if you go back even further, 2017, 2018, businesses that had an underlying blockchain-based solution, they would have blockchain on the first page. You then fast forward to now, and it's not on the first page of the deck, it's the last page of the deck, and it's not even a big thing that it's a blockchain-based solution. It just happens to be. So there's less fuss about it being a blockchain technology that is driving the business. Now, there is still investor appetite, but I think there are very specific funds now that will look at crypto and digital assets. You don't just get a general technologist. Well, you might, but it would be rare that you would get a general technologist venture capital fund that does lots and lots and lots in crypto. And when I say crypto, I mean digital assets more broadly, or blockchain. So we're still seeing them, but it's hard for anyone in tech at the moment to get finance. It's not just a blockchain play.
And why is that so? Why it's getting difficult for people to
I think a lot of funds have just tightened their belts. I think a lot are exposed to increase in interest rates around Europe, UK, and the US, and I think maybe there was a sense that there was maybe some overvaluations in the last few years, but we can't go on a vertical increase up forever. It has to stable off or even come down a little bit. So I think there's some inevitability there. Right.
Interesting, Andrew. And how about the hyperinflation that we were living in a very uncertain, unpredictable economy? The macroeconomics were playing a role, and there were talks about inflation, recession, and everything that was going on in the States, dollar being printed so much.
I mean, I'm sure it has. All of those things will have been factors. I think if you look at just Ireland for this, the Irish economy seems to be very, very strong. I think lots of economic indicators which I look at suggest that GDP will be good in Ireland for the next few years, but there is still some nervousness. And I think rather than talking about a general economical outlook, from a venture capital perspective, I think the Irish VC firms are still pretty active.
Interesting. That's so good to know that we are doing well, and our the stats and the trends shows positive. Yeah. And how are we in comparison to the UK market or into the US market at this stage currently?
I mean, look, I do English law and Irish law, so I do have exposure to both markets. I read things about the US, but I'm probably not well equipped enough to comment much on that. But I think you do hear VC funds saying, particularly in the UK, in fact they are saying this in Ireland as well, but I'm hearing it more in the UK, that they are tightening their belts, the UK and the US, that maybe they made 10 investments last year and they're going to do 5 this year, but there is a sense that it is warming back up again, and it's not going to be a long drawn out period of time where funds are just not deploying capital. So I have been told. Now, who knows, right? I'm not an economist, but the impression I get from the companies we're talking to is that it won't be a long, drawn-out, slow period where they're not deploying capital, and it will warm back up again soon.
Interesting. And I'm again curious. So as someone in leadership, and it's such an important role, decision making is so important. So what helps you with your decision making?
That's a good question, actually. The thing that probably helps me most in my decision making is having an amazing team around me. I'm surrounded by people who are far smarter than me, and have an excellent team, both those that I work for and those that work below me. All of them. There's plenty of people to go to. So I think good leadership is about making decisions collectively. Democracy, not dictatorship.
Wow, so beautifully said. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for sharing so much intense and incredible information with me, and I have learned from you in this conversation.
Right.
And I'm still curious, but I'm sure that more I'll read about regulations, more I read about the venture capitalist side of things, I'll know more. I'll have more questions for you the next time we meet in a blockchain Ireland, or
Excellent.
maybe
Excellent. Sounds good.
In another conference. So how did you find your experience in Dublin?
I think it's been great. I think it's great to have some of the big blockchain players in the industry hosting events like this, and I think this is the first one, isn't it? Is it the first ETH Dublin? Yes. So I'm sure it will. If it goes the same way that other blockchain events have gone over the last 3 years, it'll get bigger and better.
Right. And Andrew, another question. So we all have a journey that we take towards being reaching a certain stage in our life, being in a servant leader role or head of technology, head of operations. So they are very senior roles with big responsibilities. So what has helped you in your journey to progress to the stage where you're at as a partner, as a lawyer, as a head of a division?
Again, it's sort of similar to the, how do you make decisions as a leader? I would always, of course, you have to work hard and be fairly single-minded and have a goal, but I've got to where I've got through recognizing you need good people to support you and championing you to get to those levels. And you can be the most confident person in the world, but if you still are surrounded by people going, yeah, you can definitely get to where you want to be and you can definitely do what you need to do, that's always welcome. And it's always something that I think you can benefit from.
Beautiful. Thank you, Andrew. It's been a very wonderful conversation. And thank you. And I'm still curious.
Stay curious. That's good. Stay curious.
Stay curious.
Yeah.